Hi and welcome to my second project of the year. Kicking off this project, I originally wanted to do a frame-by-frame animation. However, due to time constraints, I resorted to film. From the very start, I knew I wanted to create two mascots from Fitch Leedes. For background and context, Fitch Leedes were British merchants in the 1580s who travelled from coast to coast in a ship known as the Tiger. They collected herbs and spices to take back to England and started their own tonic company. Using this information, along with the fact that I wanted to make mascots of them, I conceptualized an idea to have them teleport into modern-day South Africa. Using contrastivism as my main theory, I thought about representing the old versus the new. Further research on Fitch Leedes helped me discover their sugar-free range of tonics. This turned a light on in my head. Fitch Leedes characters would be the old, and the sugar-free obsessed modern society would be the new. Studies have shown that in the US alone, sugar-free drinks are projected to grow by about $23.56 billion by 2025. That's billion with a B. Moving on, I further conceptualized and ideated that I would make 5 videos in total. This includes 3 main videos, one for each flavor, and 1 video for the intro and outro each. The 5 videos would serve as commercials, similar to those seen on platforms such as YouTube. Next, I started to visualize the actors and their costumes. Research of 1580s Great Britain showed me that merchants of the time would spend months on end on their ships, sailing to their destinations. This would often lead them to lose small pieces of clothing such as hats, shoes and shirts. The style of the 1500s and 1600s were mostly baggy breeches with a long-sleeved shirt, a hat and knee socks with formal shoes. However, if Fitch Leedes were to sail for months in the blistering heat of the coastal sun and the cold wet nights spent on the water, they are bound to have lost some pieces of clothing. For the costumes, I visited a local second-hand clothing or thrift store and was lucky enough to find full costume sets for both actors as well as it fitting them perfectly. We did the first test fit and I was amazed at how well it fit the theme. Consultations with my lecturer prompted me to create a guide that would serve to lead both Fitch Leedes on their journey. It was this idea of the guide that led me to name the campaign #UnrealFlavorPioneering. The guide, however, needed to be played by another actor and required a unique costume, that of a boer. Yes, the guide would be a plain old boer taking Fitch Leedes on their journey to the ultimate flavor, or so they thought. Underneath his plain look, the boer is actually a magical genie responsible for teleporting Fitch Leedes from England to South Africa. At this point I was starting to write out my scenes and arrived at a point where I decided to have 3 more actors, each for a different tonic flavor. Writing the script and scenes started with me ideating and then storyboarding them out. This was my first experience with being a director, but using visual inspirations such as the humorous Old Spice commercials with Terry Crews helped me greatly. It's here where I decided on using mise-en-scene, which is the setting of the scene where you have a still frame and actors and/or important items enter the frame. At least that's how I understand it. I finally arrived at the final stage before filming, the scene writing. For the intro scene I focused on the arrival of Fitch Leedes to South Africa. Keeping with the satirical theme, Fitch Leedes teleport and fall from the sky. Looking confused, Fitch promptly says,
"This isn't what I meant when I told the genie we were looking for the ultimate flavor,"
confirming that they were indeed teleported by a genie. Their ship, the Tiger, is also teleported but has become a toy ship, symbolizing the start of their journey to find the ultimate flavor. Typical of commercials, a narrator introduces the product and a short preview of the sugar-free range ensues.
Pioneering can be bittersweet sometimes. We're not gonna sugarcoat it.
Afterwards, the boer makes his first appearance greeting Fitch Leedes with a Naturally, Fitch Leedes don't understand Afrikaans and looks visibly confused. They also haven't seen a car before. End scene 1. The second part starts off with the boer dropping Fitch Leedes off with his bakkie. They stare at the building in front of them when suddenly the boer disappears. Another car appears with loud music playing, Still confused, Fitch and Leedes see a woman inside. She carefully mixes something with a Fitch and Leedes sugar-free pink tonic, and as soon as she takes a sip, both Fitch and Leedes taste the flavor and spit it out into their hands, very confused. The woman then says,
It must be the sugar cleanse.
Cue the narrator again along with the sugar-free range preview. Afterwards, Fitch and Leedes, still not knowing what a car is, searches for the awesome flavor they have just tasted. Fitch licks the car and Leedes looks on the ground to see if any flavor fell. End scene 2. The next part starts with scene 2's woman driving off in a car yelling. Again, Fitch and Leedes stares off when suddenly another man jogs past them. Looking for answers, Fitch and Leedes runs after him, but he has headphones on, prompting Fitch to yell. The man stops and takes out a Fitch and Leedes sugar-free grapefruit tonic. When he takes a sip, both Fitch and Leedes can once again taste the flavor in their mouths and it falls back into their hands. Fitch says,
Again!
The man responds with,
What's in this these days?
and the group is left staring at one another in confusion when the narrator cuts in and again the sugar-free range preview is introduced. We come back to the still confused group when the boer teleports into frame, walking past in the background. End scene 3. Scene 4 starts as we see Fitch and Leedes sleeping under a tree. The boer teleports in and wakes them both up. We enter their blurry, still very sleepy perspective and hear the boer say,
Let me get you back on track.
Fitch and Leedes wake up and start walking. We pick up sometime later as they both walk out of a bush and hear the sound. We see a man standing on a road looking down at his hands. The man, who is flying a drone, is oblivious to Fitch and Leedes who approach him. With the drone, he drops a Fitch and Leedes sugar-free Indian tonic into his hand, and upon taking a sip, Fitch starts talking but is interrupted by the flavor appearing in his and Leedes' mouth. They look happy as it falls back into their hands, and the man replies with,
I must be seriously dehydrated.
The narrator cuts in, again showing the Fitch and Leedes sugar-free product preview. We rejoin the scene where Fitch and Leedes run away from the drone, expressing. End scene 4. The final scene begins with Fitch and Leedes walking along a road. They stop and Fitch says,
What?
We see the boer sitting on his bakkie with all 3 of the sugar range flavors. Fitch and Leedes approaches him and he asks,
Boykies, did you find the flavor?
followed by.
It's been under your nose this whole time.
This time there is no narrator and the sugar-free product preview continues. We rejoin the group, each with a different sugar-free flavor in hand, cheersing each other as we see the different flavors glow in their cans. Fitch and Leedes frantically drink from their cans, finally having the flavor, when suddenly they teleported again. We arrive in 1580s Great Britain. Fitch asks,
Where are we this time?
Suddenly 3 flavor cans teleport in. We see the boer dressed in 1500s attire walk by and greet Fitch and Leedes with.
Morning, chaps.
End scene 5. As a bonus, I also made 3 separate social media posts, one for each of the 3 flavors. And with that, the end of Project 2.